How frightened are you by the national security implications of all this? Which is to say that the possibilities for surveillance states. So Sam Hammond, who's an economist at the Foundation for American Innovation, he had this piece called 95 Theses on AI. And one of them that I think about a lot is he makes this point that a lot of laws right now, if we had the capacity for perfect enforcement, would be constricting, like extraordinarily constricting, right? Laws are written knowing that human labor is scarce and, and there's this question of what happens when the surveillance state gets really good, right? What happens when AI makes the police state a very different kind of thing than it is now? What happens when we have warfare of endless drones, right? I mean, the company Anduril has become like a big, you hear about them a lot now. They have a relationship, I believe, with OpenAI. Palantir is in a relationship with Anthropic, right? We're about to see a real change in this in a way that I think is, from the national security side, frightening. And there I very much get why we don't want China way ahead of us. Like, I get that entirely. But just in terms of the capacities it gives our own government, how do you think about that?
Would not say that we tried to race ahead in applications to national security. So part of the National Security Memorandum is a pretty lengthy kind of description of what we're not going to do with AI systems, and a whole list of prohibited use cases and then high impact use cases. And there's a governance and risk management
but you're not
framework.
In power anymore.
Well, that's a fair question. Now, they haven't repealed this. The Trump administration has not repealed this, but I do think it's fair to say that for the period while we had power, the foundation we were trying to build with AI, we were very cognizant to the dynamic you were talking about, of a race to the bottom on safety. And we were trying to guard against it, even as we tried to assure a position of U.S. preeminence. One thing that we did that could be the closest thing we did to any kind of regulation, there's one action, which was after the labs made voluntary commitments to do safety testing, we said, you have to share those safety test results with us. And you have to help us understand where the technology is going. And that only applied really to the top couple labs. The labs never knew that was coming, weren't all thrilled about it when it came out. So the notion this was kind of a regulatory capture, that we were asked to do this, is simply not true. But I, in my experience, never got discrete individual policy lobbying from the labs. I got much more, this is coming, it's coming much sooner than you think, make sure you're ready. To the degree that...
So I would say there are warring cultures around how to prepare for AI. And I sort of mentioned AI safety and AI accelerationism. And J.D. Vance just went to the sort of big AI summit in Paris. And I'll play a clip of what he said.
I'm not here this morning to talk about AI safety, which was the title of the conference a couple of years ago. I'm here to talk about AI opportunity. When conferences like this convene to discuss a cutting-edge technology, oftentimes I think our response is to be too self-conscious, too risk-averse. But never have I encountered a breakthrough in tech that so clearly calls us to do precisely the opposite. Now, our administration, the Trump administration, believes that AI will have countless revolutionary applications in economic innovation, job creation, national security, healthcare, free expression, and beyond. And to restrict its development now will not only unfairly benefit incumbents in the space, it would mean paralyzing one of the most promising technologies we have seen in generations.
What do you make of that?
So I think he is setting up a dichotomy there that I don't quite agree with. And the irony of that is, if you look at the rest of his speech, which I did watch, there's actually a lot that I do agree with. So he talks, for example, I think he's got 4 pillars in the speech. One's about centering the importance of workers. One's about American preeminence. And those are entirely consistent with the actions that we took and the philosophy that I think the administration, of which I was a part, espoused, and that I certainly believe. Insofar as what he is saying is that safety and opportunity are in fundamental tension, then I disagree. And I think if you look at the history of technology and technology adaptation, the evidence is pretty clear that the right amount of safety action unleashes opportunity and, in fact, unleashes speed. So one of the examples that we studied a lot and talked to the president about was the early days of railroads. And in the early days of railroads, there were tons of accidents and crashes and deaths. And people were not inclined to use railroads as a result. And then what started happening was safety standards and safety technology. Block signaling so that trains could know when they were in the same area, air brakes so that trains could brake more efficiently, standardization of train track widths and gauges and the like. And this was not always popular at the time, but with the benefit of hindsight, it is very clear that that kind of technology and to some degree policy development of safety standards made the American railroad system in the late 1800s. And I think this is a pattern that shows up a bunch throughout the history of technology. To be very clear, it is not the case that every safety regulation, every technology is good. And there certainly are cases where you can overreach and you can slow things down and choke things off. But I don't think it's true that there's a fundamental tension between safety and opportunity.
That's interesting.